Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this training session. My name is Rowdy, and I'm a Senior Technical Account Manager with Synology. In this presentation, we're going to discuss the importance of backing up your Microsoft 365 data, and also look at how this can be achieved using Synology's Active Backup software. We'll start out this presentation with the review of why it's so important to back up your cloud data, given that Microsoft's own policy stipulates that it is your responsibility as the user to protect the integrity of your 365 environment. After that, we'll walk through a demo on how to back up your Microsoft 365 data, including email, SharePoint sites, and OneDrive files using Synology's license-free Active Backup software. Once we've learned how to back up our Microsoft 365 data, we'll walk through how to recover your data in the event of a worst-case scenario in which your data is permanently altered or deleted. Before we dive in, let's review the structure of how a Microsoft 365 backup plan can fit in with your Synology device. To start off, the users in your organization will use Microsoft 365 to create data, be that emails, SharePoint sites, or OneDrive files, which will then be stored on Microsoft's cloud servers. From there, you can use Synology Active Backup to connect to your organization's 365 account and create backups of the cloud data on your network-attached storage device. If, for whatever reason, the data that is hosted in Microsoft's data center changes or is temporarily rendered inaccessible, you'll be able to turn to the local copy of your 365 data on your NAS, and from there, you can access or restore the data to its original state. Let's take some time to review why it's important to keep a secure backup of your cloud data on a local appliance. A common misconception is that it's the SaaS provider's job to maintain data integrity. However, Microsoft's own policy states that the 365 offering rests on a shared responsibility model, wherein the cloud provider is responsible for maintaining the storage infrastructure, but the user is responsible for ensuring that the data is not altered, deleted, or otherwise tampered with in ways that are not related to the server farm that is storing the data. If something goes wrong at the data center, such as a controller failure or a network cable getting damaged, it's the SaaS provider's job to ensure redundancy so you don't experience any business disruptions. Outside of maintaining the server infrastructure, Microsoft makes clear that it is your responsibility as the user to ensure that historical versions of your data are maintained over time to protect yourself from accidental deletion and other forms of data loss that are not related to the physical infrastructure. Let's review what your SaaS provider is responsible for maintaining and troubleshooting. As anyone who has dealt with server maintenance knows, there are a number of events that can go wrong when managing a data center. At any point in time, there could be a drive failure in one of the storage appliances. Of course, these are often protected against a complete volume crash with RAID, but there still needs to be someone on call who can swap out a failed drive, replace it with a new one, and ensure that the volume is successfully rebuilt. Servers themselves are not immune to failure, so if a controller goes down, it is on the data center personnel to swap out a device if it reaches end of life, or if it fails prematurely because of a defect. Internet access is also a critical component of a cloud data center, so the cloud provider needs to ensure that they can maintain consistent performance across the many users connecting to the site, while also monitoring for any potential hackers who might try to infiltrate the network to steal confidential information or execute a ransomware attack. Finally, unexpected disasters such as a fire or power outage are also a concern when it comes to maintaining storage infrastructure. Most data centers are strategically placed in areas less prone to these types of events, with additional safeguards such as backup power generators on hand to ensure there is no interruption even in a worst-case scenario. Now that we know that the SaaS provider is responsible for protecting against disruptions such as drive failures, natural disasters, and data center security intrusions, let's review the potential threats to your data that a cloud provider is not liable to protect against. Accidental deletion is one of the leading causes of data loss in most organizations today. This happens when users delete a file or, more commonly, overwrite an existing file by mistake. Most of us have had this happen at some point in our lives, and the frequency by which this occurs is magnified when the size of an organization is in the hundreds or thousands of users. Microsoft's policy for their most popular plans is to only archive the data that is actively deleted for 30 days. Past that time frame, there is no way for your cloud provider to get the data back. Some organizations, such as healthcare clinics and financial institutions, are subject to government regulations that stipulate retention policies to preserve historical versions of protected data over time, which can only be achieved with a proper backup repository. Finally, there do exist instances in which the opposite of accidental deletion can occur, in that a malicious user could purposely delete, edit, or encrypt data in a way so that it is not usable to you. This could be either from a hacker who has gained access to your 365 account, or it could come from a disgruntled employee who decides to burn some bridges before calling it quits. To illustrate this point about hacking attempts, a recent study from Business Wire found that 85% of organizations surveyed that were using Microsoft 365 had suffered email security breaches within the past year. Although Microsoft is responsible for protecting the data that they house in their data center, that doesn't mean that your organization is completely safe from hackers and other opportunists who might be trying to gain access to your 365 environment. Given that this threat exists, it is highly recommended to have a secure store of your 365 data in an on-prem appliance that you can turn to in a worst-case scenario. Now that we understand why it's important to maintain a backup strategy for your Microsoft 365 data, let's review how to deploy a protection plan for your organization using a Synology NAS. With Active Backup for Microsoft 365, you'll be able to back up all of the cloud data for each of the users in your environment, including your email, calendar, and OneDrive files. You can also granularly select which specific users or groups you want to back up. In addition to data for your users, you can also use Active Backup to archive entire SharePoint sites as well. Active Backup for 365 supports continuous backup, which means that all the data for all the users is being backed up every time a change is detected in the 365 environment. You also have the option to back up 365 data manually or on a schedule. However, for most organizations, it's generally recommended to utilize the continuous backup setting, as this will ensure you'll have the most recent version of your data in the event of an error or outage. With Active Backup, you can also make adjustments to your retention policy. You can choose to keep all of your versions going back to when you first implemented Synology as a backup solution, or you can choose a set number of days that you want to retain. Finally, Active Backup supports deduplication at the block level, which helps by reducing the overall amount of storage that the backup file will take up on your NAS. Okay, so we're going to hop over here into DSM, and what we're going to do is go to the main menu and click on Active Backup for Microsoft 365. So this is going to pull up the admin console for AB for M365, and the first thing you'll notice is I'll see a list of all of the accounts that I have backed up. So this is a total summary showing me the number of mailboxes, OneDrive accounts, and SharePoint sites that I'm backing up to this NAS. On the right-hand side here, you'll also see a calendar. So this is going to show me whether over the past couple of weeks my backup tasks have been successful or not. If all of them were successful, I'll see green. If I've had any errors or issues, though, it'll get either a red or an orange signal, letting me know I need to go in there and fix whatever went wrong with those particular backup tasks. We're going to hop over here now to Task List on the left-hand side, and we're going to click Create, and we're going to select Create a new backup task. So this is what we would do if we were first connecting our 365 account to this Synology. We'll need a tenant ID, application ID, and certificate information, and there's actually a tutorial on our website that walks through how to get this information. So we're not going to go through that today, but you can find that tutorial on our knowledge base to get that information to connect your 365 account. What we're actually going to do here is hop over to this 365 account that I've already connected to my NAS, and we're going to click on Edit here. And so I'll see what the name of this domain admin account is, johns@synologytest.onmicrosoft.com. And we're going to scroll along here, these various tabs at the top, and move our way to the right so that we can take a closer look at setting backup policy. So as you'll see here, I have it set for continuous backup. So as I talked about earlier, we recommend utilizing continuous backup because this will take advantage of all the times that your data is changed. It'll immediately start backing up. But you also have the option to set manual backups if you want to, or you can schedule backups as well. If we click Set Schedule here, you'll see the different scheduling options that you have. So you can schedule for certain days of the week if you want to select specific days of the week right here. Or you can also choose if you want to back up every hour, if you want to back up every day. All those settings can be adjusted right here under Scheduled Backup. Finally, looking at the retention policy here, you'll see that I'm currently preserving the last 180 days of my data. But if I want to, I can click Preserve All Versions and begin preserving all the versions from when I first started that backup task. If you're an organization with hundreds or even thousands of users, Active Backup for Microsoft 365 has several features that can help with managing the complexity that comes with a large enterprise. To start, Active Backup supports granular specifications of backup tasks across not just individual users, but entire groups as well. For example, if you want to back up all of the OneDrive files for the faculty in a university, but you don't want to back up the OneDrive files for the students, you can select OneDrive Backup for the faculty group, and you can leave it unselected for the student group. You can also set auto-discovery policies for Active Backup. This means that when you add a new user to your O365 account, Active Backup will automatically discover this new user and start backing up their files without any input from you as the admin. You can also select which specific files you want to have archived for a new user. For example, perhaps you only want to back up their mail, but not their contacts or their calendar. With Active Backup for Microsoft 365, you can back up more than just one admin account. If you happen to have different 365 admin accounts in different areas around the world, you can back up all of them to a single Synology NAS. You can also replicate Active Backup data to another Synology device off-site to ensure that your historical versions are kept safe if there was a failure at your primary site. All right, so we're going to hop back in here to the Active Backup for Microsoft 365 admin console, and we're going to go back to this particular account that we just looked at a couple minutes ago. So I'm going to pull this up here, and you'll see here at the top that there's several tabs that we haven't explored yet. So we're going to take a look at the User tab, and that's going to pull up a list of all of the users that are associated with this Office 365 account. So if I click on any of these users on the left here, you'll see that's going to highlight and back up all of the OneDrive files, mail, contacts, and calendar for that particular user. And if I want to deselect anything, I just deselect the box right here. So you'll see I'm not backing up the OneDrive files for this user, but I'm still backing up mail, contacts, and calendar alongside here. Now for backing up groups, it's pretty much the same process. So we'll scroll down here to the team, the UX team, which is the group that I want to back up, and I'll select this box on the left-hand side here. So you'll see that's going to highlight everything for backing up all users that are associated with this group UX team, including things like group mailboxes as well. So all of those will be highlighted by default, and I can choose to deselect any of them if I'd like. For SharePoint sites, it's pretty straightforward as well. You'll see a list of all of the SharePoint sites here, and all I need to do to back them up is I'll just click on this box on the left-hand side. And finally, for auto discovery service. So again, think of auto discovery like when you're adding new employees to your company, you'll need to add new 365 accounts for them as well. And when you do that, you can set this option here so that the Synology box will automatically start backing up their user as soon as you add them. So you don't even need to manually go in and let them know that you want to back up this user. It'll just notice that you have a new user and start backing them up automatically. And so you can choose that for all of the files, or you can select which specific types of files you want to back up. And you can also do this for new groups and new SharePoint sites that you add over time as well. Now that we know how to set up backup tasks using Synology to protect our Microsoft 365 data, let's take a look at how you can recover and restore your cloud environment in the event that you experience data loss. Let's start by reviewing the two different types of users who can access the backup data in Active Backup for Microsoft 365. If you're the administrator of the Synology device, you have full access to everyone's accounts, in addition to being able to set the backup and retention policies we reviewed earlier. Not only that, but you would also have access to the other 365 accounts of other organizations as well, if you happen to be backing up more than one organization to a single Synology device. That said, it's not just the admins who can recover data. Active Backup for Microsoft 365 also has a self-recovery web portal for every 365 user that is being backed up by the Synology. When a user logs into this portal, they will only see the Microsoft 365 data that they have access to. They will not be able to see data from any of the other users that they shouldn't be able to access. The Active Backup for Microsoft 365 timeline has an intuitive user interface that makes it easy for anyone to find and retrieve their data. They can scroll along a timeline at the bottom of the screen to see what their mail, contacts, calendar, and OneDrive files looked like at a particular point in time. Once the user has found the file that they need, they can restore it back to its original location in Microsoft 365, or download it straight to the PC that they are using when accessing the portal. They can do this not just with individual files and emails, but entire mailboxes as well, where they can choose to restore the mailbox to a new location, restore it to the original location and override existing emails, or restore it to the original location without overriding the content of the emails in that particular mailbox. All right, so we're going to try something a little different this time. Instead of going to the Active Backup for Microsoft 365 admin console, which is where we've been going thus far to set our backup tasks and perform similar functions like that, we're actually going to go to the Active Backup for Microsoft 365 portal. And so you'll see it's to the right here. And when I click on it, it's actually going to open up a completely separate screen. So the Restore portal is actually separate from DSM. It's its own standalone service. And you'll notice when it pops up here, I'm actually going to go to my mailbox for a particular user. So we'll click on Mail right here, and we'll scroll along to go to my inbox for this user. And so you'll see here, as I mentioned before, if you scroll along this timeline, you'll see exactly what this mailbox looks like at a particular point in time. So I can scroll back to the time of an email that I might have accidentally deleted, and then find it here, and I can restore it back to this particular account. Now we're actually going to switch users here. We're actually going to log into Jon Snow himself. Yes, that Jon Snow actually has his own Microsoft 365 account. And so we're going to go to the OneDrive files for Jon Snow, and we're going to scroll down here to the bottom, and you'll see a list of some pictures here that I have. In particular, we're going to focus on this picture of a jellyfish. So we're actually going to hop into the 365 account for Jon Snow. So this is the exact same folder that we're backing up right now. And so you'll see here is that jellyfish picture. And we're going to demonstrate the restore process first by deleting this. So we'll click delete here, and now that picture is gone. So let's imagine that we might have accidentally deleted that and we want to get it back. So what we can do is go back to the jellyfish picture right here, and I'm going to click export. So this is actually what I would do if I wanted to download this picture straight to the PC that I'm using right now. And you'll see it's near instantaneous. It takes just a second or two for that picture to download. I'll hop over to my Windows File Explorer, and you'll see in the Downloads folder, there's that picture of the jellyfish right here. And it looks like it's all restored successfully. Now, if we want to restore it back to 365, we would click the Restore option at the top. And so when I click that, it'll show you it's going to restore to this particular destination, restore_2021. So we'll confirm that it's all good, and then we'll click OK here. And this takes just a couple of seconds to restore it back to Microsoft 365. So we'll give it a few seconds here for that to take place. And just like that, only took about, you'll see here, 3 seconds for that restore process to take place. So we'll exit out there, and we'll hop back into our 365 account for Jon Snow. We're going to click refresh. And we're going to go to the very top of the page, and you'll see a folder here is that Restore 2021 that was restored just a few seconds ago. And we'll click on the picture, and there is our jellyfish picture, good as it was before. Let's take a moment to recap everything that we've learned here in this presentation. We started off by reviewing why it's critical for your organization to have a backup plan in place to protect against data loss in the cloud. A SaaS provider is only responsible for maintaining uptime of the infrastructure, but they are not liable to keep your data safe from accidental deletion, malicious attacks, or file overwrite. Having a store of your cloud data on-prem is also important because it protects you in the rare event that your cloud provider experiences an outage, which could mean losing access to your data for several hours at a time. After that, we took a look at how you can utilize Active Backup to archive your Microsoft 365 data to a Synology NAS with no license fees. We talked about the different options available when deploying this software, including retention settings and group policy parameters. Finally, we talked about how to restore your SaaS data using the Active Backup for Microsoft 365 portal, which can be used to browse historical versions of your data and either restore files and folders to their original location in Microsoft 365 or to a different place altogether. This training has been focused on Active Backup for Microsoft 365. However, it's important to keep in mind that we have an entire suite for our Active Backup line of software. Synology supports SaaS backup not just for Microsoft, but for Google Workspace as well. Active Backup for Google works much in the same way as for 365, with control options for users and groups, a self-recovery portal, and continuous backup supporting Google Drive, Mail, Contacts, and Calendars. We also have our Active Backup for Business package available to provide backup options for PCs, servers, and virtual machines, which we have covered in a previous training session. If you'd like to learn more about Active Backup for Business, please watch our Spot webinar on business continuity and disaster recovery. If you're supporting a small business, you might also want to consider Synology's proprietary Office tools as an alternative to a public cloud service. With a single Synology box, you can create a mail server, build out a private file sharing solution with Synology Drive, and create calendars and contacts similar to what is offered with Microsoft 365, but without the hassle of recurring subscription fees. Thanks so much for taking the time to learn about how you can utilize Synology to create an on-prem backup solution for your Microsoft 365 environment. Please don't hesitate to contact us anytime if you have questions on Active Backup for Microsoft 365. Active Backup for Business, or Synology's Office software. You can reach out to us at sac_sales@synology.com if you're a reseller or a managed service provider, or onboarding@synologyamerica.com if you're a business user, and we'll be happy to connect you with a dedicated technical resource who can assist. Take care for now, and we look forward to seeing you in the next training.